I'm not excusing what may have come before, but for me personally, and what I like in Star Wars, this was probably one of the best episodes of Disney Star Wars television that I've seen since they took over.
Jedi are being hunted.
I sense this is only a small part of a larger plan.
What are you?
This is the clue we need to unravel the mystery of the Sith.
Right, welcome to the long time ago Acolyte review show. Today we had episode 5, Night. There will be spoilers, you have been warned. So spoiler warning out of the way, let's get our guest in. He is a long-standing member of this fine community of collectors and Star Wars enthusiasts. A man who has an incredible amount of Star Wars knowledge. Please welcome to the channel, Mr. Dez T. How you doing, Dez?
Good evening. Good evening.
Good.
Good afternoon.
Good. Delete is appropriate.
Yes, yeah. So before we get into episode 5, we like to ask our guests how they're enjoying the series so far. So how are you enjoying it?
Yeah, very good. I went into it a bit sort of trepidation. Oh, what's it going to be like? You'd heard a lot of sort of bad press about it all, but with all new media, I always try and look at it as I would as a sort of 7-8-year-old kid, as in, when I was a 7-8-year-old kid, and just because I think that's what Star Wars is aimed at. Yeah, and it's I'm enjoying it. New
Good.
worlds, new characters, new species. It's always takes time to sort of get your head around a lot of that. But it's I'm enjoying it.
Not a bad start. Okay, that's good because there has been a lot of hate and vitriol. We've mentioned it every week, but it is good because I feel like most of our guests have more or less enjoyed the show so far. It's not perfect, but it's not awful.
Yeah,
is
I mean,
it?
you can start picking pieces, but you can pick pieces with anything you sort of like.
Absolutely,
but it's Star Wars, so what's not to like?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So before I get into this episode, we're going to do from the comments section of last week. This is a little section I'm bringing into it. Now, we had a message from the Hangman Entertainment Network with a theory that Soul might be behind the Sith. His comment was, what I think, and I could be wrong, is Soul saved May and yet let everyone else think she died. I believe the huge twist will be Soul is behind the Sith with a bigger master overseeing it all. We see a hand grab May, which is Soul in the trailers, and we see the helmet on the floor, so he must be taken out. So I don't know what you guys think of that. I mean, this episode 5, could have sort of stopped that theory in its tracks, maybe at this point.
Yeah,
but,
unless it's a big twist. I think for me, Martyn alluded to it in last week's episode. The fact that Kimir, who was the shop assistant to May, he was the Sith master, and I think that, and then that sort of happened in this episode.
Yeah,
so I think that's the twist.
Yeah,
of who's the Overlord, unless there is another twist, which I don't.
I mean, there could be, but like I think Martyn said last week that he's not sure that they're actually clever enough to do that sort of a thing. But I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
So go on, Martyn.
No, I was just going to say I think there's some validity to his prediction, but I think this week kind of quashed it a little bit because some of those scenes he was alluding to in the trailer happened in this episode, like the helmet dropping to the floor, and I'm sure the hand on the shoulder was this episode as well. But at the same time, there's definitely something going on with Soul, and I think there's obviously, we've said it in previous episodes, there's definitely more to meets the eye when it came to what happened in episode 3 with the Jedi and the witches. So I think there's definitely something going on with Soul, but I personally, after this episode, don't think it's going to be anything Sith related. But if it was the case, I think it'd be a fantastic twist. So we'll see.
Well, we know, I mean, there's definitely more to come, eh?
I mean, there was talk of the dark history of Sol. What that's going to come out presumably in a future episode.
Yeah,
and again, it's sort of
that's what I mean. Yeah, it's a flashback coming up in the future, isn't there? I would have thought. So this episode, then, have we got any particular fond thoughts, or was this one that you enjoyed? Was it your favourite so far, or was it?
I think not? For me, I think it was the best episode so far. What I never like watching is when it's dark, physically dark. I know it
that was the name of this episode.
Exactly. Yeah. But I struggle to sort of to watch it because what's sort of going on. But I just thought, the lightsaber, the fight, all the fighting, whether it be the hand-to-hand combat or the lightsaber duels, I thought, very good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Martyn.
Well, I've been kind of middle of the road with this show so far. I don't think the writing's been all that fantastic. I have been intrigued. I haven't hated it. I thought, it's definitely something that I'd stick with. But when I finished watching this episode, this is the greatest Star Wars episode of TV I've seen in ages. Absolutely amazing. I literally, I switched it finished, and I just played it again and watched it straight away again. Honestly, this is what I want out of a Star Wars TV show. I watched it without remembering any of the stuff that had gone on before. It was just from start to finish, just some of the greatest dark side lightsaber action I've seen in a long, long time. I mean, some of the stuff we were seeing in this episode was akin to some of the dialogue and dark action we were getting from Revenge of the Sith, and we haven't seen that since Revenge of the Sith. So I'm not excusing what may have come before, but for me personally, and what I like in Star Wars, this was probably one of the best episodes of Disney Star Wars television that I've seen since they took over and they started releasing content on Disney Plus. So just to
high praise.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it.
Thing is, I suppose it's Jedi fighting, box ticked. That's what you want to see.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Now, I'll accept that. I do think the action in this was brilliant. The lightsaber duels, amazing. It doesn't come without its faults, though, I don't think. And I still think that there's quite a few issues around the dialogue, and it still feels a bit disjointed. I don't know if you agree with that. But you may be coming from it from a different point of view, Martyn, and just enjoying the episode for what it was rather than paying too much attention to the dialogue.
Well, okay. We all said last week, didn't we, that it was quite obviously that Kimir was going to be the Sith Lord. And we were all of us, it'd be really disappointing if it turns out to be him because it's been so obvious. And as soon as that reveal came and it was his face, I wasn't surprised. But as soon as he started talking, honestly, I thought he gave an excellent performance. I thought he was brilliant in this because we've complained a lot about the acting in this show. And I thought he was evil. He came across as evil. He was brilliant. And then when he slipped back into his old persona of the guy who worked in the shop ever so briefly and then switched back to being, the supposed Sith Lord, we don't know for sure. I thought, wow, this is really good. And some of the dialogue he had was really dark and really evil and very, very Sith-like, as far as I'm concerned. So when it comes to the dialogue of this episode, I thought it was a level above what we've seen before. But that's just my personal opinion, anyway.
Yeah, I hadn't looked at it from that point of view of him maybe switching back to his shopkeeper, shop assistant personality as such. I'd never really thought of it like that. I don't know. didn't think much of him as an actor, but maybe I'm looking at it all wrong. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah. I think. I mean, you did allude before we started that you did watch this a couple of times, but you weren't really able to give it 100% focus. And everyone each to their own. But I think if you sat and watched it and gave it your full attention, you can look at the nuances in his acting because again, in my opinion, I thought he was excellent. I thought he was really, really good, and he really, for me, I mean, the fact that he did such a good job that he took away the disappointment that I knew it was going to be him, and I'd completely forgot about any of that came before. I literally was like, oh right, he's the bad guy. Awesome. That's all I could think when I was watching it.
Okay.
I've heard varying people, say different things, but for me, I thought it really, really works.
Yeah. Des, how did you feel about Chimera being revealed as the Sith Lord?
Yeah, allegedly? I mean, it was the Martyn. I had no idea. It was just when I'm not pointing the finger at Martyn last week, but he put that seed, and I thought, that's I quite like that as a twist. Hiding in plain sight sort of thing. So when it sort of revealed, it was like, well done, Martyn. I thought that was good. It was a good, not major plot twist, I suppose, but a good plot twist.
Yeah. I mean, some of the dialogue he had as well. I mean, there's one quote I put down of many, but this one quote we'll come to Lecky in a minute, but when he killed Lecky and Sol said to him, she was a child, he literally turned to Sol and said, well, you brought her here. I mean, that's just that's perfect for the Sith. It's admitting guilt in what he's done, but at the same time blaming it on the Jedi for it's their fault. It wasn't his fault that he had to kill her. I thought it was fantastic. Really, really, really chuffed with it. So
I must admit, sorry, man. I thought it was a shame that she had to die. I quite liked her. I liked her character. I like because she was she played Lyra in His Dark Materials, didn't she?
She was Weapon X as well. Was she? Was it Weapon X? I can't remember in Logan. Not
It's
Weapon
a film
X.
that I haven't seen, Martyn.
Oh yeah. She was in Logan. She played. I can't remember the name. I've only seen it once, but she was really good in that as well.
And I thought how good she fought compared to the cannon fodder of the Jedis. I thought again that's just a minor gripe. You sort of saw last week. Well, these are all going to die.
Yes,
quite easily.
I mean, on that
again,
note,
that's not.
On that note, I was not expecting quite as many to die. We lost pretty much everyone there, didn't we?
I think that was everybody apart from Sol. Yeah.
That was a nice little surprise.
Do you not think that fixes things a little bit in like worries in people's minds about what was going on in episode 1 100 years later? Now there's only Sol really for them to deal with, and I can't see him surviving this show, to be quite honest with you. But
that was going to be one of my questions, actually.
Okay, sorry.
That's all right. No, that's fine.
But if we're talking Lecky, if you don't mind, I mean, she was the MVP of this episode. I mean, I'm a huge fan of the prequel saber dueling. I love the original trilogy, as everyone knows, but when it comes to lightsaber duels, it's all about the sequel trilogy, and this is the first time we've seen sequel trilogy duel type lightsaber dueling since the prequels. I mean, nothing we've seen since then has been anywhere near as good. And watching the choreography after like my third rewatch of this episode, it was absolutely fantastic. I mean, it was on par, not quite as good, but it was on par with what we were seeing in the prequels. And when she ignited that second lightsaber, and she was going mental on him, wasn't she? I mean, it was so well done, and it was so fast. And then I mean, I could spend 25-30 minutes of this just talking about the different stages of the battle, because I think it was like 20 minutes it lasted of the episode. It was there was the double impaling kebabbing of the Jedi, which was absolutely brilliant.
But it's just, again, going back to how dark it was, you sort of struggle to see it. For me, you know what I mean? if it was a bit more, but again, it's at night, so I'll get all of that.
Yeah. I did adjust my TV to a different mode so that it was a bit brighter, and I didn't seem to have any trouble once I'd done that. But I definitely know what you mean. You couldn't get any clear screenshots of this episode if you wanted to, because it was all very dark and pixelated. But yeah, there was also let's start from the beginning of the fight, because let's talk about the whole fight really, because the fight for me was absolutely fantastic. And it started off with once he'd taken out the red shirts, shall we say, him and Soul started, and Soul and Kamir fighting was absolutely fantastic. But it then cross cut with Lecky fighting with May. And
that was a very good battle.
That was great. So it was very Star Wars, because if there's anything that's Star Wars, it's cross-cutting between battles when you're watching the films. So that felt very Star Wars, and I thought Lecky, absolutely fantastic, like hand-to-hand duel she had with May, and got the upper hand. Obviously, then Kamir comes in and thinks, well, I'm going to take her out, and she holds her own against him. Then it's Lecky and Soul versus Kamir, which was an absolutely fantastic fight. And then there was the absolute shocker of a moment where she just gets stabbed 3 times in the chest.
3 times, yeah.
And I, at that point, I honestly, I was actually shocked. I was very shocked. I didn't see that coming at all. And I was actually, we've had not the greatest amount of character development in the first 4 episodes, possibly, a little bit, but not much. But this episode made me enjoy Lecky so much that when she got stabbed, I was like, oh man, I was really shocked. I could not believe that it happened. It was absolutely fantastic.
And then obviously Yord coming back into the frame as well and getting his neck snapped was just.
I didn't mind about that.
You didn't mind now.
No, I don't understand Yord.
He's not been your favorite character.
He's a bit bland, isn't he? I mean, he was just sort of the bland man, and there's this thing going online called the Yord Horde, and that came to an abrupt end today. So
it was a good thing,
It was, yeah.
No, you were saying as well. There were a few moments that I picked out from Chimere when he was in his very dark phase. But mentioning to May that Lecky makes for a good Padawan as well, right before killing her, really, which was quite entertaining. And then also saying to Master Soul, now this was something I wasn't sure about. So he said, Master Soul, you don't remember me, do you? Now, I'm assuming he's going back to episode 2 as the shopkeeper.
Sorry, Adam, I was going to say, is that something to do with this dark secret from before? Are we going to see that in another flashback?
For me, that was a little bit sort of confusing, because I wonder if he has seen him before that, surely he would have recognized him as the shopkeeper.
Yeah, but
so
I don't think
would that sort of throw it off a little bit. But then he said, take your helmet off so I can see you, or something, words to that effect. Soul said that to him, and he said, what, so you can read my mind? I don't know. I feel like they might write themselves into a corner a little bit.
I think you're looking at it slightly the wrong way. I think I don't think it's a thing of recognizing him. I think it's more a thing of feeling his presence. In terms of him being a dark side user and a presence he's felt in the past. I think I possibly when we do get that flashback of what happened at the Witch's Temple, Kamir was probably there in some way or another, or his master was, or whatever. I don't know, but I think we'll probably find that had something to do with it. So yeah, I'm not sure that's necessarily what he meant, but again, it's a bit of a mystery. It's a bit, it's definitely something that, if, as fans, we'll hold on to that, and if they don't explain it, we'll want to know why. So yeah. And just a quick thing, I can't take credit for this, but I read this. But Soul, obviously, it means sun, doesn't it? And Kamir in Arabic means night. So apparently so. I haven't double checked, but this is what I read. So I think that's kind of interesting as well. So one stands for light and one stands for dark. Where was was Khmer in some way connected to Sol in the past? Was he actually a Jedi in the past? It's he was a young Padawan that he wouldn't recognize. So yeah, it's all quite interesting. So
yeah, that is interesting. Now towards the end of the episode, then we have May switching places with Osha. I felt like May sort of flip-flopped a fair bit throughout this episode and the last one, from the last one where she was going to turn herself into this one where she's then fighting with them. And then, she could have quite easily said during that, take me in. I surrendered, which is what she'd planned to do. And I don't know, there was a lot of flip-flopping back and forth. So what do we think?
Who's she trying to play?
Yeah, what do we think her end game might be? Yeah, with this, any thoughts on that, Des? Do you think?
Well, because she's gone with Sol now, is she going to kill him to fulfill the killing of the Four, to prove herself to the Sith Lord?
That's good.
That's a good theory. Yeah.
Say she seems to be hot and cold. Which way is she going to go? Who's when is she speaking the truth? It could.
I think you're onto something there, Des. I think that bit of dialogue that Adam mentioned earlier, where he said, without your mask on, I can't read your thoughts. So, if you were to take that dialogue, that means that Sol instantaneously should know that that's not Osha and that it's May.
Yeah, I was going to say he said, "Where's your sister?" He didn't say, "Where's May?"
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I think that's clue enough that he knows that that's May.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's like the Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan all through the Phantom Menace knew that Padme wasn't the handmaid, and they knew she was the queen, but they just kept quiet because it was part of her her plan. But I think it will be the same case with this. I think he knows that that's May, and also the fact that she's got a big tattoo on her forehead might kind of give it away as well. But
Plus Adam Berry's favourite character, Basil.
Yes.
Finding the light.
Oh yeah, Basil knows. Basil knows.
Yeah.
Smelling, and it's I thought that if there wasn't enough hints. Then,
I mean, I would be disappointed if Basil was the one who revealed it to Sol that that's May, not Osha, because he should know. He should know, but he looked pretty downtrodden, beaten, absolutely distraught, didn't he? By the end of the episode,
Sol or Basil?
Sol.
So
I think there's definitely something not quite right with him at the moment. So we could give him a pass, maybe. I don't know.
So I mean, with that particular episode, so many people were killed off. It's interesting to know where they're actually going to take the next few episodes. Obviously, Sol's going to head back and be the remaining Jedi. How much will he reveal to the rest of the Jedi?
Because we've only got 3 more left now, haven't we?
Yeah.
Episodes.
Yeah.
I mean, is he going to go back? And do you not think?
No, I don't think. I think something's going to happen before he gets to the Jedi Temple, because I just don't see it. I think they might land on another planet or something. I don't think they'll go back to Coruscant, and I just can't see it, because my initial thought was, well, May's going to go back to the Jedi Temple to try and take out the Jedi. But I mean, she wouldn't stand a chance, would she? Let's be honest. And so that made me think, well, and also they've got to keep hold of the fact that the Jedi don't know about any of this stuff. So I just don't think they're going to make it back there. I think there obviously might be some sort of holographic communication, perhaps, but I don't think they'll make it back to the temple. No.
So what do we go on?
Will we see some sort of interaction in the ship going back to Coruscant that will then lead on to maybe a big flashback, not necessarily an episode flashback, but a little bit of conversation that then leads on to finding out what happened to Sol and all this dark sort of history he's got.
I definitely think so. I think Sol will know it's May, but he'll play the game that he, pretending it's Osha, and he'll say something like, I promised I'd tell you what happened when we got back to the ship, and then the flashbacks will start kicking in. I think that's probably what will happen. Yeah.
I mean, I do hope we see some more of the Jedi Temple.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
A few cameos.
Yeah. Oh, Yoda's definitely coming. There's just no chance that Yoda's not in this.
Do you think
they've denied it? Oh, they've denied it.
They have denied it. Yeah.
But he's definitely going to be. He's going to be one of the final scenes of the show.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And I hope he does. It's give Hasbro an excuse to put him on an Acolyte card.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. So we've seen.
I would all buy it as well.
Oh, I expect so. Yeah, without a doubt. We see then that Chimere's taken Osha. What do we think his plan is with that? Is she going to be his new acolyte?
Do you think he wanted her all along?
I think possibly, possibly so. Did we
seems
mention
more
that last week?
Yeah, I think we said that they're obviously the yin and the yang, the dark and the light, the two of them together. And I think turning someone from the light by tempting them to the dark side is probably more of a Sith, goal, really, isn't it? We've seen that happen many times in Star Wars before. So yeah, I think because of that, they would tend to be more powerful. I don't know, but yeah, interesting. I mean, who knows? We have to. That's the side of things I'm not 100% sure, and I do think they're going to be chasing May and Sol because, Chimere is, because he's obviously going to want to stop them being able to tell anyone else what they've seen. So yeah, I'm not sure really what's going to go on there, but we're definitely up. We're definitely up. I think we're definitely going to see another battle between the two of them at some point soon.
Yeah. He did say he needs to kill them all, didn't he? That's all I was going to say.
Yeah.
So who knows? It'd be sad to lose Sol, but I guess there's not a second series announced for this, is there? So.
No, not yet. No,
imagine.
They did.
Well, I must have. I'll write that down in my notes when I said 8 episodes. Will they have another series?
They did talk about it. I've read interviews where they said, if they would have to make a second series if to continue it. But unfortunately, I'm not sure they will do now because of the what's happened in the
backlash.
How they're going to end it, which would you would assume it's been ended. It's in the canners, so to speak.
Yes. with the
how do you carry it on?
Continuing.
Which is why I thought it's a shame that Jackie Lon has gone. I thought potentially she could have been the next, but obviously she's gone. So that's put paid to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Before Martyn, I'm assuming you've got more notes. You've got bullet points, as you always do. Before we get into that, I just want to mention the soundtrack for the episode itself. Very tense.
Oh,
very, very John Williams, brilliant. And it's been probably the standout thing from the series as a whole, hasn't it? The soundtrack,
definitely, absolutely awesome.
Very much so in this episode, in my opinion. Now, before we jump onto Martyn's, Des, I'll ask you if you've got any bullet points to go through first.
Just a couple. How to get a haircut? Just use a lightsaber.
Yeah.
I thought the twin swap twist was sort of good. My only gripe, and I don't know, not being a big sort of acting buff, would it have been better? Because it's only one actress that plays the two parts. Would it have been better to have a real set of twins?
Yeah,
there's a lot of
possibly. They can do a bit more with that, I think.
Yeah. It's a minor gripe. I don't think it detracts from it, but it could have been better if there'd have been two.
No, can't disagree.
Lots of headbutting.
Yes, there was. Yeah,
this one, which I thought was
unusual, but yeah.
Do you think Chimere's helmet and armor, is there any significance with that? How it can defend itself against lightsaber blades? Is it Beskar?
I'll come on to that in my bullet points. Yeah.
Well, there we go.
I think we're good. Oh, and I thought it was just a little bullet point I put in. Osha making Soul spare Kamir's life. Is that going to be significant? Presumably yes, because he can carry on and do other stuff. If it had just died, we'd have finished after 5 episodes.
Yeah.
Or they might have revealed his master, or his master could have come into it. I'm not sure. Yeah, I did think about that as well. Yes.
Yeah. I did think as well, and again, I think Martyn mentioned it last week about Kalnaka, and he is dead. I thought he's just lying there. Is there a chance that he's? Come on, please. No.
Yeah, I think we all
Don't
wanted
worry,
to see more of him.
We'll
we
see
will
him
see
having a kick-ass fight. Don't worry.
Yeah.
So I think, I think we're done.
Okay, Adam.
Okay. Good. No, on to you, my friend.
Okay, right. Let's get going. Okay, right. So when Kamir heals Osha's wound at the end, don't know if any of you noticed this, but you can quite clearly hear Kylo Ren's theme playing. Yeah, and it's very prominent. It's not like subtle at all. So this could be a link in some way to the Knights of Ren, maybe, because his helmet is very similar to the Knights of Ren.
That is a point.
Yeah. So when you rewatch it, listen out to that. It's very interesting.
I wouldn't know what Kylo Ren's theme sounds like, to be honest.
Okay. You recognize it when you hear it. Cortosis is the material that his helmet, and he's only got one sort of what would you call it? A
gauntlet
wrist,
sort of thing.
Gauntlet, wrist gauntlet. Now that's made of a material called cortosis, which was originally thought of in Legends. It was in the book, and I believe the book was called I, Jedi, but don't quote me on that. And then it was brought into canon when the Thrawn books came out a few years ago, when Timothy Zahn wrote his new Thrawn trilogy. Now, this material is a material that can deflect lightsabers just like Beskar. However, it also makes weapons malfunction temporarily when it hits it.
I was going to ask about that, because we don't see that very often. Well, no, if at all.
In live action, never seen it. But it's even rarer than Beskar, this stuff. So Thrawn was really interested in these books. That's the reason why. Because if you noticed, Kamir was headbutting lightsabers and using his gauntlet, to deflect, just like a Mandalorian would. But had the added effect of obviously disrupting their lightsabers for a brief few seconds, which is all he needed, really. I thought I mentioned this earlier, but I thought the impalement of the Jedi and then force pulling a second Jedi to kebab them both was absolutely fantastic. Yeah,
brilliant.
As was stabbing Faux Koon in the back as well. That was quite funny. The cross-cutting fight between Sol, Kamir, Jecki, and May, as I mentioned earlier, was absolute Star Wars quality in my eyes. I thought that was brilliant. When Kamir had killed Jecki, Sol, you could see him. He crossed to the dark side temporarily when he fought Kamir, and he absolutely annihilated him, and was just about to make that fatal blow when he was stopped by Osha. I thought that was quite interesting because he looked really evil during that scene. Again, fantastic acting by the guy who plays Sol. So just on a rewatch, just watch out for that, because there might be some hints of things down the road to come. What I thought was weird, and again kind of made me question Sol in a way, is he sort of looked around at all the dead bodies after all of the attacks and just walked off and went back to the ship. And I thought to myself, wouldn't a Jedi recover the bodies and take them back to be properly buried at the Jedi Temple, or burnt like they do in their custom? So I thought that was interesting. He'd either showing sort of dark side tendencies there, or not caring, or he's absolutely that messed up in the mind that he's just like, no, I can't deal with this, and just walked off, because he, as I say, he did look very, very depressed at the end. May says the same line Anakin does to Padme in Revenge of the Sith at one point, where he says, "You've turned them against me," which I thought was a nice little callback. And another fantastic callback was when May calls to Osha through the Force. She just says Osha, and then just like Leia does in The Empire Strikes Back, she says to Yord, "We have to go back." When they're on the Millennium Falcon flying away from Bespin. I thought that was a nice little sort of, because you get that a lot in Star Wars, and I thought that was a nice little touch. So and I think for the time being that's all my bullet points for this episode.
Excellent. Right then, scores for this episode then, Des. How are you scoring this?
I think I've been scoring them all so far. I think sort of 6.5, 7. But I think this is a good solid 8.
Oh, okay.
I did write down 7.5, but I think more
Martyn swayed you.
Yeah. Damn you. I think a good solid 8.
Martyn, we know your score is going to be high.
8 for me, solid 8. Absolutely nailed it. 9 and 10 is reserved for top tier. You can't give things 9 or 10 willy-nilly, but absolutely an 8. Best episode so far, without doubt.
Oh yeah, it was best episode so far, but I still feel like it's a little bit disjointed in places, so I'm not going to go any higher than 7. So.
Harsh.
But that's it for me. Do you think harsh? Okay. Well, that's it anyway. That's episode 5 covered. Let us know what you scored that episode in the comments. Des, thank you so much for coming on.
No, thank you for inviting me.
Do you have anything to promote at all? Anything to tell anyone?
No.
Hey, do you want anyone to follow you anywhere or anything?
You can follow me if you want, as long as it's not down the street. Follow me on Instagram. That's where I have my collecting sort of life and some random holiday photos.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll leave the link down in the description then. That's it for this week. Good stuff. We'll be back next week to review episode 6. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss that. Hit like on this one if you can. And we'll catch you in the next one. We'll see you later. Bye.